What's up, everyone? Josh High here with Results Driven, and you can see we've got Coach Jordan on with us today. We're very excited to share with you guys another student spotlight. Here in a moment, we'll bring them on, but let's talk about the purpose and really why we do these videos for you guys. So one thing that's really important, no matter where you are in your business, is to identify, where someone was, the action that they took, the things that they implemented, right? The bottlenecks and challenges that they faced, what they had to overcome in order to get to where they are. And I always think it's really cool to hear people share their journey as they're going through building out their business. And so, Coach Jordan was helping actually Jordan Johns and his brother Ben. And actually, can we bring them onto the call and start asking them some questions? Jordan, what's going on, man? Ben, what's happening?
Hey, how we doing?
Howdy. Doing good. Excited to have you guys on here.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
It is our pleasure, brother.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys were able to hear me as you guys were waiting, but one thing I always think that's really important is to talk through where you guys were. How long ago did you guys come out to the workshop? I know, Jordan, I think you were the one that came out, right?
Or correct,
yeah.
It was like June or so, middle of summer.
Okay, so about 5 months ago or so.
Correct.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about where you were in your business then. Can you give us a brief description?
Easy. Yeah, super easy answer. There was none. Yeah, Jordan can attest. Josh, you and I talked about this at the 2-day as well, but I have a construction background. I'm not afraid of any sort of rehab or anything like that. I'd flip my own homes, but I did it with my own labor. I did it with my own money, and they looked great when they were done. But man, I was beat when it was over. I was like super, super grateful. So it was kind of a perfect storm because we had recently moved, and I heard about Results Driven, and came out to the 2-day and was like, I think I can do this. I really think I can do this. So when I first came out, I really didn't have much of a business, but now we definitely do. That's for sure.
So you were buying, one at a time, doing all the work. About how many deals a month or a year do you think you were doing? Probably 1 or 2 a quarter or so. Would that be about accurate?
Yeah. The funny part is it was something I did basically when I wasn't actually working. I worked quite a bit in the spring and summer, so fall and winter was really quiet. So I fit 4 homes into my downtime in 1 year, 2 years. So it was very, very much more of like a side hustle than anything. But
yeah,
like, hey, listen, if I can do it, anyone can do it. So
for sure. Well, dude, I love the mindset. You come out, you pull back the curtain, you see everything, and you're like, man, okay, we can do this. Jump into small group. Start working with Jordan and talk through. So Jordan, at that point in time, knowing where Jordan was in his business, or lack thereof, I think this would be great. So we're starting from the ground up, right? Jordan, what were the first things that you gave direction to Jordan to go and implement in his business?
Yeah. So we started from nothing, and candidly, even just to go back one layer further, typically this would not be somebody who we would, necessarily qualify for the small group. But I think a large portion of why we decided to move forward with Jordan in the group was his attitude. He had really the right kind of expectations going in, and looked like he was willing and able to, kind of put in the work. And I think that he very much qualified himself in at a point where, a lot of people maybe wouldn't. And I want to tip my cap to Jordan there in the first place. But realistically, Jordan, the first thing we looked at was where he was going to market to. So we had a conversation, I believe it was with Steve from PPC Force, right. Basically kind of getting a lead, hey, we have an idea of a handful of opportunities, but where Jordan lives out in Colorado, it's not, the sexiest market by any means, right? It's a difficult market. It's not super great. And ultimately it's a little difficult. So he knew that, hey, I probably wanted to go virtual. So really it was establishing the market. It was setting the right expectation with once we knew where we needed to be, what was going to be the fastest game plan to bring leads in, which we did 2 things, but we ultimately landed on PPL. So we used Need to Sell My House Fast. And from there, really it just hit the ground running once he onboarded himself and his brother through the acquisitions onboarding that we have in Kajabi.
Nice. Okay. So other Jordan, you've got the marketing plan in place, right? And you've got Ben, who's jumped on board, right? Gone through the acquisitions onboarding. You press go on all this. What was the next challenges that you faced?
Oh, dude, all of it. Are you kidding? It's hilarious because a lot of your trainings, Josh, like, and Jordan, like the whole curriculum it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you guys cover a lot of things where I'm like, I don't need to know that right now. Like, I don't need to know how to raise private capital. I just want to get a deal. But we get to the point where I'm like, holy crap, I have to do that. Or like, wow, I didn't realize how important Dispo was. It's literally a completely different business in and of itself. And you guys have trainings for all of that. So, I mean, we've fallen literally every step of the way, but I can promise you, like, without having the curriculum, without having the knowledge or the teachers, like, there's no way we could have done this alone. No way. Like, not even close. We took what y'all taught and went right to it. And when we had questions, we came back, asked more questions, and went back to it again. So yeah, like, I mean, literally ask a question. We had a problem with every process along the way, but there's always a solution,
No, that's exciting, and I appreciate you saying that. So let's talk through where are you guys today now? 5 months later, what's the business look like?
So the first few months, because I didn't have much of a business in the beginning, the first few months, and Jordan can attest to this, it felt like I was dragging my feet, but I was really, really trying to absorb what we were doing. Why does a follow-up specialist even exist? Which is such a simple question looking back. But at the time, I didn't really understand how any of it worked. So the first few months, I just kind of, got my feet wet and ran through the trainings, asked a bunch of questions, listened to a bunch of calls, went back through the sales pod so I can listen to like what it actually sounds like. And the first month or so after that, so let's say month 4, right? Let's say month 4 since the 2-day in the middle of summer. We were still trying to figure out our marketing, trying to figure out like a main market because we weren't necessarily going deep. We were chasing data across the whole state of Texas, which is huge. I mean, it's a huge state. And then we kind of sat back and realized like, well, it's not working as well for us as we had thought. We need to dive a little bit deeper. And so we did. We opened up PPL immediately, and in the first month locked up, I don't think it was quite 100,000, but like $92,000 or $94,000 in projected profit.
Boom.
We had to spend money to get it. Like nothing is freaking free. Nothing is free. So Josh, that's another thing.
So you mean you can't just wake up tomorrow, snap your fingers, and then have $100,000? Do you mean you can't do that?
Right. And again, Josh, it's hilarious because I can hear Tiffany's voice in my head when these leads are going and I'm watching the card rack up. Is don't necessarily focus on the cost, focus on the return, because the KPIs are there. If you spend enough and you're half decent on the phones, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. And then you can figure out what didn't happen the first round and continue to tweak. And we were talking about all the KPI trackers earlier today. Jordan is slowly implementing those into our business and is already basically telling us where we need to improve and the best way to do it. It's insane. It's crazy. I didn't get to say this on the call earlier, Josh, but I commend you and Tiff for pushing through and creating all of this, because I recognize that the KPI trackers and all of the resources you have available so that we can keep, pulse on the business. I recognize you guys made all that from scratch. That's cool. What's even cooler is that you did it for so long that you actually found your KPIs that you wanted to stick with from scratch. I don't know if you remember doing that, Josh, but Jordan will look at us and be like, hey, like your offers to a contractor are a little bit high. We like to stay right around this 10th of a decimal point. I'm like, guys, that's insane. Like, that's very, very, very impressive. And to have all those resources now, it basically is a business in a box. If you do the work, you spend the money, and you apply yourself, it's almost impossible to lose. And we're a testament, because when I first heard about you guys, I didn't have any of this. Yeah. And now I have a business that I could never stop, because it's easy enough that I know we can do this no matter where we are, because we are 100% virtual.
I appreciate you saying all that, man. And really that it takes me back, because you brought up, not sure if I remember when we had to go through all that. So when we first got started, what was really big is really sexy for everyone to talk about KPIs, all these metrics. And it got to a point where we were tracking so many metrics, but we didn't understand, one, why we were tracking them, or two, the story that was told. And then we had to go back and we said, okay, well, what's truly the critical path? Like being in construction, were you advanced or anything with scheduling at all? Do you understand the critical path of like where you start and getting to where you have to end?
Familiar with it, but never close enough to be directly involved.
So we had to ask ourselves, like, what are all the predecessors and successors in construction? Like, you've got to paint the walls before you lay the floor, right? Because you don't want to get paint all over the floors.
Yeah.
So, but for KPIs in business, it's what are the leading indicators that drive this specific conversion all the way down to the end result of landing the deal and having money in the bank. So we had all these metrics and we were wasting so much time tracking all this stuff for no reason. And we said, okay, let's simplify this. What are the handful of things that we have to know? And then we went back and said, okay, here they are. Well, okay, well, based on this, now we can start to say, well, I see this little window here, but I've got to see a couple other components. So then we added other components. And something that's similar is like, I think last week, or even, I think it was last week, I was talking about in Power BI with our advanced reporting. We just added a column because a question came from, oh, hey, we see a potential bottleneck here. What could be causing that? Well, I've got to see this view, right? And then now all of a sudden we see a whole nother metric that has a whole nother meaning, and there's leading indicators that can even be interpreted from that. So, but yeah, it's funny that you say that, because the years and years and wasted time and money that we've put into this, you've been able to press the easy button, man. Just copy and paste.
Yeah, exciting, I know. Man. So thank you, Josh, because it means a lot, because every time I ask a question, everyone's like, oh yeah, we have a tracker for that. Or like, more importantly, this is where you should be at and this is where you're at now. So like, this is all of it. It's not plug and play, because you definitely have to do the work, but you have definitely forged a path already for people to essentially plug themselves in and play. Otherwise, I can confidently say, like, we would, however many years, Josh, it took you to get started, we'd probably take double that. So our hats off to you. You guys are great,
man. Hey, Ben, let's shift it over to you, man. So you're in the acquisition seat, right?
Yes, that's correct. I'm the closer here.
Okay. And did you come from a sales background or no?
I did. Yeah, I did a variety of roles, but the majority of those were in sales. And so before this, I was doing a sales job, and Jordan was like, hey, we've got this opportunity out here. So I came out, took it, and it's been great. We've had there's a lot of really good feedback from both Jordan and the training. I think the core instrument here is not from me or from Jordan. It's from the trickle down learnings that Caleb has implemented from you guys, but also Caleb's own. And just for those who are listening, Caleb is our sales coach. He's part of our pod. He's the guy that coaches everyone. He is so tactical and nuanced in the way that he can deliver feedback. And it's great feedback for us, but it's also real time. We'll be listening to a call and implementing that real time in the call just right afterwards. It's been phenomenal listening to him. He's been an amazing asset.
Yeah, dude, Caleb is a wizard. He was a closer for us. He was
Yeah.
a high-performing closer. And
where'd you find him, bro?
It's black magic, dude. It's insane.
So there was a seller that our top performer missed out on an opportunity. And so he calls Caleb and he goes, all right, Caleb, here's the situation. This is everything that happened. He sends the recording over to Caleb. Caleb calls him back. This is literally what he says. He goes, remember that dog that seller talked about? Hey, and Connor was like, yeah, I remember. And he said, you need to call him back and you need to say this word for word. And it was something along the lines of, if your dog could talk, what do you think he would tell you to do?
Yeah.
And Connor's like, dude, you're crazy. What are you talking about? And he's like, do it. I promise you. I swear this will work. Calls the seller, says it. Seller literally says back, well, I think he would tell me to go ahead and accept your offer and move forward. And so he ended up signing the contract. So I'm like, this is just crazy. You know, what a wizard.
So the craziest thing about that is Caleb told us about that story and dove a little bit deeper. And he actually, it wasn't crazy at all. He actually had like, it literally, he's like, I can explain why that worked. And I knew it would work based on the call. I'm like, dude, no one's doing that stuff. So yeah, like Ben said, you know, we're able to calibrate our calls live. Caleb gives us immediate feedback, which is huge because we learned very quickly, Josh, you know, the scripts are great and it's a really good backbone, but like, you can't just read it word for word. Like it's almost never going to work. You have to be able to understand where these people are coming from and adapt the conversation to where they're coming from essentially. And Caleb has done an excellent job of being able to tell us where we can improve, more creative rebuttals. So it's not actually rebuttal. It's just kind of a workaround. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So Ben, with these other sales roles, did you have like any onboarding and consistent ongoing training in those roles with those companies? Or like, can you talk through what that looked like and maybe how that might even compare to, like what the training portal, like with the acquisitions onboarding and, the call reviews and ongoing training and what all that looks like?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think taking like a bird's eye view, I think a lot of sales professions, they get a bad rap because there's just producing poor salespeople. And you're only poor, not really because of your abilities. You can have a very good natural salesperson, but the vast majority of people aren't. And so the vast majority of those salespeople that come out as poor, it's because of their training. And so I have had a lot of jobs where there was no training. It was all tribal knowledge, things that you'd have to go ask your manager, or you'd have to go, into some email conversation to see how something was worded. I've had lots of companies like that. And Results Driven was really one of the first that actually had it organized and codified into Google Docs, Kajabi, Google Drive. And so being able to have all of that segmented and highlighted, broken down, not only the psychology part, but also the tactical specific things exactly to say. And again, like Jordan said, it's not a script, it's a framework. Having that training, I think, can turn any poor salesperson into a really good performer. And so relative to the other companies, again, to sum up, it's been really good to have all these resources, especially with Caleb, as he's able to implement all the trainings that you guys already put out. It's great.
Yeah, nice, man. And the reason why I was asking, I was genuinely curious to see what that looked like, because we talk to a lot of people, we interview people all the time, and there's a lot of organizations that for whatever reason just lack onboarding and ongoing training. It just blows my mind, and they expect people to perform, and it's like you're not even putting them in a position to be successful, which is mind blowing to me. So appreciate the feedback. So Jordan, I always like to wrap this up with if there was one thing that you could tell anyone on this call who's back where you started, or even after implementing some of the things, like you face some of the challenges, like what's one piece of advice that each of you guys would have for someone in those positions?
A phrase comes to mind that I've seen you and Tiff post a ton. It's don't be cute. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. I know a lot of people. It's funny. I know a lot of people that come into Results Driven with a pre-existing business, whether it's wholesale or something else in real estate. And almost all of them that I know tear it down after a month or two and restart fresh from scratch. Day one, they go through the onboarding training, figure out how you do what you do, and most importantly, why. And they've already seen more success. It's more consistent, it's more reliable, whereas before it was none of those things. So yeah, my advice is don't be cute. Like
don't reinvent the wheel. It's tested, it's proven, just implement.
Yeah, exactly. It's so simple, but I guess everyone, because there's so many courses and whatnot out there, everyone thinks they've got a better way to do it. But yeah, I can confidently say, like, I know for a fact right now we are in the right place. Like, we are 110% in the right place, and we're not going to slow down because we know exactly how to speed up. It's a system. There's no guesswork. It's inputs and outputs. So yeah, man, that's what I would say is all of the credit that I can give is to you guys, Tiff and Josh, Jordan as well for help walking us through this. But the framework is there. We've basically just done the work, which is almost the easiest part.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I appreciate you giving us all the praise, but man, you're the one doing the work. You don't get the result without the work. So I'm gonna throw it right back on you, man. I'm not gonna take that. So Ben, what about you, man, from the acquisition side of things? Like, what's one piece of advice that you would share for someone who's watching this, who they might be in the acquisitions role, or they might be an owner operator in the acquisitions role? Like, what can you say from those lenses?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and this phrase might seem a little cheesy, but I think the core here is when you're looking to become a good salesperson, like we all want to go ahead and hit those record months, 10, 15, 20, whatever it is. But there's this phrase I learned from one of my other sales jobs, and it's basically this: you don't rise to the level of your motivation, you fall to the level of your preparation. And so the better training you can get, which Results Driven gives, and the more time you can spend with that training, the better you're going to have on the field and taking the calls. Because winging it, you might be able to close a few deals, but if you don't have the structure, the systems, and the processes to go ahead and actually implement that training, you're not going to go anywhere. So get your KPIs tracked, like really aggressively review your calls. In our calls with Caleb, he kind of got after us because I kept uploading my worst calls. Like I don't get any benefit from like uploading like the sunshine and the rainbow calls, and so we really just try and like hammer down on improving those like poor moments in our sales calls. So again, just that level of preparation. If you can get as immersed in the sales training as you can, just get really familiar with the whole process. It really does become a framework and not a script, and it'll take you places. We're very grateful for you guys and for Jordan.
Man, that's a huge point. I tell people all the time, sales is no different than the most elite athletes. What do you think makes the most elite athletes so elite? Do we, for whatever reason, people almost think they just show up and they outperform everyone. No, that's not the case. Like they put so much time and energy into preparation, training on the fundamentals, right? Doubled down on the fundamentals. And in fact, I heard Tim Grover was the trainer for Michael Jordan and for Kobe Bryant and some of those guys. And he said that in the off season, they would study where the nails were in the floor.
Oh my gosh.
Down to that level of detail.
Yeah.
To a point where they memorized it. So that way, when they were in the game, like they didn't have to think about all the little things. They were able to just react, and their reaction was the right reaction every single time. And it's no different in sales. If it's 8 o'clock on a Thursday night and you got an opportunity, man, you got to close this to reach goal this week.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to have to be thinking, man, how am I going to handle this rebuttal? Like it should just be repetition, right? It's just rhythm. I love that.
No, that was a quote that Aaron Letty had said a few weeks ago. Is like, when under pressure, you fall back to your highest level of training. And it's the fallback part. Very rarely do you excel when under pressure. It's you always fall back to what you know. And if you're not well trained, then eventually you will crumble. So combined with the constant calibrations in the sales trainings, like I can confidently say we have gotten better every single sales pod. Like every single time. Like we always get 1 or 2 golden nugget lines that we add and try to implement immediately, because why not? Might as well.
Right. Copy and paste, baby. Don't reinvent the wheel.
I know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know.
Well, I appreciate the feedback. I greatly appreciate you guys hopping on. Super excited to see you guys crushing it and all the shifts and movement you guys are making in the space. And we're happy to have been a piece of that. So with that being said, appreciate you guys being on. Thank you for everyone who's tuned into this. I'll see you guys on the next Student Spotlight. But with that being said, let's crush it this week.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
You guys.